the Middle Ages, a time of chivalry, castles, and crusty peasants who probably smelled like a mix of wet sheep and regret. If you've ever wondered what hygiene was like for medieval peasants, buckle up, because we're about to take a whiff of history. Spoiler alert, it's not pretty. In fact, it's the kind of history that makes you want to hug a bottle of hand sanitizer and never let go. Let's start with the basics. Water. You know, that magical liquid we use to wash ourselves, our clothes, and our dishes? Yeah, medieval peasants weren't exactly on board with that concept. Bathing was considered a luxury reserved for the rich, and even then it was a rare event. For peasants, water was for drinking, if it wasn't contaminated, cooking, and maybe baptizing the occasional baby. Wasting it on something as frivolous as personal hygiene. Unthinkable. So how did peasants stay clean? The short answer, they didn't. The long answer, they really didn't. Most peasants believed that bathing too often could open your pores and let in diseases. Because, you know, nothing says healthy like a thick layer of grime acting as a biological hazmat suit. Instead of soap and water, they relied on the medieval version of dry shampoo, a vigorous rub-down with a dry cloth. Think of it as exfoliation, but with more dirt and less spa music. Now let's talk about teeth. Medieval peasants didn't have toothbrushes, toothpaste, or even the faintest idea of dental hygiene. Their solution? Chewing on twigs or rubbing their teeth with a cloth. Flossing? Forget about it. Their idea of fresh breath was probably just eating enough garlic to ward off vampires and anyone else within a 10-foot radius. And then there's the toilet situation. If you think porta potties are bad, medieval peasants would have considered them a 5-star experience. Most peasants did their business in outdoor pits or simply squatted behind the nearest bush. Chamber pots were a thing, but they were often just emptied out the window. Yes, onto the street below. Imagine walking through a medieval village and getting hit with a surprise golden shower from above. Charming, right? Clothing hygiene wasn't much better. Washing clothes was a labor-intensive process, so peasants often wore the same outfit for weeks or even months at a time. Underwear barely existed, and when it did, it was rarely washed. The result? A wardrobe that probably smelled like a mix of sweat, manure, and despair. But hey, it wasn't all bad. Medieval peasants did have one thing going for them. They didn't care about smelling bad because everyone smelled bad. It was like a communal stinkfest where no one stood out. Plus, they had plenty of creative ways to mask odors, like carrying around bouquets of herbs or burning incense. Because nothing says, "I'm fresh and clean," like covering up the smell of dung with the smell of smoke. In conclusion, hygiene for medieval peasants was, well, let's just say it was an adventure. It was a time when dirt was a fashion statement, bathing was optional, and the concept of clean was more of a distant dream than a reality. So the next time you complain about running out of shampoo or having to wait in line for a public restroom, just remember, it could be worse. You could be a medieval peasant, knee-deep in mud and muck, wondering if that twig you're chewing on is actually making your teeth cleaner or just giving you splinters. And with that, I'm off to take a long, hot shower because history has never made me appreciate modern plumbing more.